Hello and welcome. Can everyone hear me? It is very nice to welcome the audience and our distinguished panelists. Today we will be talking about Picture from Auschwitz, a digital replica, one-to-one reconstruction created especially for film industry. Without further ado, I would like to introduce our panelists today, with whom we will be discussing why this technology is necessary, why it is important, and the chances it poses for filmmaking. I am particularly honored to welcome renowned photocomposer, Auschwitz survivor, portrayed by Steven Spielberg in Schindler's List, Ryszard Horowitz. Thank you for being today with us. Also particularly because you agreed to come to speak with us from New York. Thank you very much. I hope the next person I would like to introduce is with us and can see us. She does not need to be introduced here in Cannes, especially to the film industry. A screenwriter, a TV and film producer who has found the time to be with us via video connection, even though she's very busy. I would like to warmly welcome Agnieszka Holland, who hopefully can see us. From Paris, she is on this particular project of strategic importance. Former New York Times International Director in charge of development and innovation. Her whole career has been devoted to protecting truth, to protecting democracy, and applying new technologies. It is my pleasure to welcome Kristen Davis today here with us. Thank you. The next person who is with us is Deputy Spokesman of the Auschwitz-Birkenau Memorial. He has been with the memorial since 2007. Among his numerous job duties, there is also one which is particularly important when it comes to new technologies and also building a dialogue with young generations. And that is to be in a conversation with the followers of social media accounts of the Auschwitz Memorial. These are around 2.5 million followers who on a daily basis are receiving contents, are learning about this difficult past. And I am very honored to say hello to Paweł Sawicki, who is here with us today. And last but not least, and let me emphasize that the only reason why he is the last one to be introduced is because of his family name. It starts with the letter Z, and not only that. Above the letter Z there is a dot, which in the Polish alphabet means that it's the almost last letter in the alphabet. Maciej Rzemojcin, I'm sorry. In charge of artificial intelligence, virtual productions. He is the technology specialist of this production, Picture from Auschwitz. Before we jump to the discussion, I would like to give us all a little bit of a historical context. This year we are commemorating the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz-Birkenau. Auschwitz-Birkenau stands as the site of the murder of over 1,100,000 human beings who have been turned into ashes. Mainly the Jews of Europe, also Polish political prisoners, Soviet prisoners of war, Roma and Sinti, and many others. Today, 8 decades after the liberation of Auschwitz, it is a site which is visited by over 2 million annually, both physical and remote visitors. And as we will find out, also a growing demand from the film industry. People who, like many of yourselves maybe, would like to approach the memorial, would like to shoot on site, which has not been possible since at least 40 years. Why? Because the Auschwitz Memorial is a site which symbolizes the Holocaust, the crimes of World War II, and as such it needs to be protected. the fragile remains need to be protected. So 40 years ago, the decision has been made not to allow any feature movie productions to be shot on site. The result of this being that film productions, feature film, which would like to deal with this difficult content and difficult history, has to be shot outside of the compounds of the historical site, in areas which are reconstructed, which are not authentic, which are very often not vetted. So sometimes fantasy steps in, and the actual history might be a little bit too much fantasy. That is why it's been so important and so wonderful to work with this team of people who over the past 3 years have made everything possible to create Auschwitz, picture from Auschwitz, this technology which will be made available to the film industry, which we are here to announce. And I am particularly proud also to welcome Bartosz Bartyzel, who is the spokesperson of the Auschwitz Memorial, thanks to whom 3 years ago we met, we sat down and we started trying to come up with a solution, how to offer a solution to the film industry. Bartek, thank you for your vision and your trust in the team. And now, maybe it is time that I turn towards the audience, the panelists. Mr. Horowitz, I would like to start with you and with Mr. Sawicki. You both are in charge of memory. Paweł is the one who, on a daily basis, is working from the site and is trying to explain to a global audience what the site and its history is about. You were an eyewitness. You have survived Auschwitz-Birkenau. When you first heard about this technology and about this project, would you give us your personal first impressions and what your thoughts were?
Well, I was curious, although I must say I spent most of my professional life as a photographer, not as a filmmaker, but very much interested in special effects, so to speak. And what we're talking about right now is really offering to film producers and film directors virtual access to one of the most horrific places in the world. We have to preserve what's there, and I believe that having this tool available will make it quite easy to work with, and the memory will linger on. We will sort of retain as much as has been left of the camp. As we know, in the late 44, Himmler ordered to destroy the gas chambers, and I wish that in the future it will be possible to replicate or create them as well, for a number of reasons. So yes, you know, I'm very much for it, and I don't want anybody or anything to stand in the way of creative people who have something new to say, something personal to say about people in the camp.
Thank you. Paweł, why is it not possible to shoot on site? What's your daily life experience in working also with the film industry, and what are the differences between documentaries and feature film makers?
This is, of course, very complicated because there were films made at the site, starting from the film that was created before even the museum was opened, and that's the last stage, directed by an Auschwitz survivor. But we could see years and years after the liberation and the creation of the memorial that the site is very fragile. The buildings are getting aged, and you know much more than me that feature filmmaking is a challenging physical thing, large crews, and one danger is, of course, conservation issues. The second thing is that Auschwitz is visited by many people every day, and usually things like filming involves closures. And we have people coming from all around the world, over 2 million visitors a year. So of course that would be another challenge. But these are, I think, the physical challenges that we will upkeep, and this new project is a step that the museum is doing towards creators, because there are documentaries made at the site on a daily basis. We have hundreds of film crews, some who come only to make some B-rolls, some who come for long projects and they tell the story. But we are also aware that Auschwitz is a symbol for the world, and not everyone can come to the physical site, and that's very optimistic. Very few people can come to the authentic site. We are trying to educate using new technology, social media, online tours, but we are aware how much power artists in film have, how many people they can reach to. And we can see that the new technology which they try to use outside, building sets, building virtual, it's still not close to the authenticity. And today, actually, the technology can allow us to make this step, that the technology is good enough so that the authentic site could be really used by filmmakers. And now the challenge is how we will be able to use it. I think it's important. Auschwitz is a symbol, and something that is a very big challenge for people who know about the symbol is that they do not really know much facts about the actual history that happened there. Auschwitz, Holocaust, these are those big historical events. And we try to talk about this complexity in a most nuanced way. And I hope that this will also be a challenge for the filmmakers, that they will, on one hand, use their creativity to tell this tragic human story that Auschwitz was and Auschwitz is for all of us. That filmmakers will be able to take the story of survivors like Mr. Horowitz and many others. And they will be able to meet us to not only to create a symbol that is supposed to shock, that is supposed to be very dramatic, because everyone knows that Auschwitz is a dramatic story, but they'll be able to sit with us using this incredible technological tool. I'm a person from the museum, I'm not a person from the technology, and it looks spectacular. And we will say we have something more important to protect, that through the art we can also protect the truth, which is complicated, which is nuanced, and but this truth can really reach billions of people all around the world thanks to the modern film industry.
Okay, lots of complex situations to face. Mr. Horowitz, one thing I also wanted to raise. When you were working with Steven Spielberg and you had to face this difficult situation Paweł was speaking about, that you're not able to shoot on site, what was the most challenging situation when you were working with the crew, with the director? Were they complaining about this reality that we all understand, of course, that the site is fragile, but were you back then thinking about maybe one day there will come a situation, a solution, maybe a technological one, when we will be able to show to people over screen the actual site?
Well, everybody was hoping for it. The part of the film that had to do with Auschwitz itself was shot on the outside of the main entrance. Well, I don't know. Some people probably won't appreciate the difference, you know. For me, I mean, I would love to have everything be done right on the side, but for obvious reasons that were discussed here, it is virtually impossible, because time is enough to, you know, to damage and destroy most of the stuff that is still there. And if the latest technology enables us to, you know, to recreate it without touching it and possibly damaging it further, more power to it. So again, I'm not going to go into the fact what would be for me more real or less real. I mean, a movie is a fantasy land anyway, so when I see something on the screen, I probably wouldn't pay too much attention whether it was done on the real side, as long as it represents the actual matter, the actual circumstances. So to me, it's a story that really counts. What one has to say about taking place in this horrific environment and the environment itself, but again, I am very pleased that the circumstances would enable future creators to take advantage of what's available right now.
Okay, thank you very much. Before I ask the crew to show us the trailer, I wanted to go back to you, the audience, and ask one question. Would you please raise your hand who from amongst you has ever visited Auschwitz-Birkenau in person, so that we know how many people have an understanding? Thank you very much. So roughly 1/3. And are there some producers who in your past wanted to shoot on a specific site but could not do so because of some reasons? Raise your hands. A couple. Okay, thank you very much. So now I would like to propose that we play the intro so that we all see what this technology is actually about, and then we will move on to the next.
I think we've seen the intro already now, so we can skip it on, yes?
Okay, so you have...
Yeah, but we can skip
Thank
it
you,
on. Yeah.
thank you very much. Okay, so maybe I will go to Agnieszka Holland, if she is with us. I haven't seen her. Maciej, since you seem to see more than I do, have you seen her? Do we have Agnieszka Holland?
Mrs. Agnieszka should be online.
Yes. Hello. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Oh, excellent.
Yes, I do. I was listening to you from the beginning.
Thank you very much. I have a couple of questions. You have, among other movies, already, of course, also produced some with dealing with the history of World War II and specifically with the Holocaust. I know they were important to you also personally, and they have certainly helped shape the understanding and imagination of so many generations. Please explain us, why do you think nowadays it is particularly important to show the history of World War II, of the crimes committed in Auschwitz-Birkenau, but also other camps? And is the significance maybe growingly important? If so, why?
When I was doing the films dealing with the past, especially that tragic past with the Second World War and the Holocaust, it was not only because I wanted to pay the tribute to the victims or speak about the historical truth, but because I felt that the story somehow didn't end, that the war, Second World War didn't end, that it was put to sleep, and it can wake up any moment if we will be not vigilant, if we will be not careful. So those films are in the same time the statement, the expression of the memory, the expression of my relationship to the past, but also some kind of the warning. And my first film about dealing with that subject, I shot in 1985, I guess. And even then I felt that it is relevant, and today I feel it even more. Because I was talking about some kind of the vaccination, that the Holocaust, Auschwitz was some kind of the vaccination to the humanity, especially to the European part of the humanity, and it helped to create some kind of the precautions against that kind of the possibility that it can happen again. The European Union is the best example of that kind of the institution which was created to preserve the Europe from the authoritarian imperialism, from the fascism, from the nationalism, and from racism. But we can see, and I'm not only one, in last years that those bases on which European Union have been created, and that liberal democracy was created, and the human rights and the state of law, it's evaporating, that it's shaking, that it's fragile. And we are talking quite often, we are referring quite often today to 30s of 20th century. Somehow, those stories are maybe more relevant than ever. And in the same time, it's the new generation of the artists, of the filmmakers, of the storytellers, who have different relation to that past, who is looking for some different tools and different style and different storytelling to express those stories. And being on the place, having the possibility to show the circumstances and visual circumstances as they are, as they've been, it is quite important to open up the imagination to the new kind of the storytelling. So I'm really grateful as a filmmaker and also as a citizen to that initiative, to the museum, Auschwitz Museum, to the technology and Maciej and others who created that tool. And I'm quite sure that it will be used and that it can help to show what is necessary to be shown.
Thank you. You also have vast experience in using new technology in film production. Would you mind sharing your experience and also why you think it is important nowadays?
Well, my experience is not as extended as many other filmmakers, Hollywood filmmakers especially. I've been using it several times when it was helpful for my storytelling and also for my budget, because it can come together. And I found it inspiring and useful. I'm the fan of the new technologies in the cinema. I'm not afraid of that. I'm not afraid that it will diminish somehow the creativity or imagination. I think that it can help the imagination and creativity and give us the tools which facilitates not only the shooting, the production, but also the way we are telling the stories. So I'm the supporter of that kind of the technology, and I know that it can be used for the very best.
Thank you very much. Maciej, now I would like to turn to you. You are responsible of this production. What has been done, and please guide us through what has been achieved so far and what the plans are for the future.
So for now, we have the virtual film location of Auschwitz I. We're in process of doing virtual film location of Birkenau. We have already started first steps there. And the story is like 3 years old. So we started 3 years old with doing proof of concept, with trying, because our thinking about how we should do this virtual film location was like very different from what happened. First of all, maybe, like first steps was I was looking for the right people, and Robert Kraczek, our head of scanning, is here. So please applause to him. There are very few people who can take this kind of challenge. And why is it challenge? Because Auschwitz I is a field of 250 by 350 meters within the fencing, and there are more than 2 million people annually in this field. So it's super challenging to do any scanning, because there is always someone who is in front of the scanning equipment or in front of the lens. It's like it took us like around, I think, 10 times more time than we expected. But it has been achieved. This data has been gathered. We now, the foundation now owns 18,000 pictures of high resolution from Auschwitz I, and around 1,300 LiDAR stations. So it's very dense data. It's data which is like far more detail than it's usually necessary. And since last year, we've been really systematically scanning. We've been also learning and, in a way, building this plane while flying, because we were learning how to do that, how to do this in the crowd, how to challenge, how to face the challenges of the. We were fighting between the weather, losing light, and people being there. Flying drone is a challenge there because the excursions. Paweł, please correct me if I'm wrong. Like are coming like 7:30, yes, in the morning. They start coming 7:30, and the light starts 8 a.m. So, and we are not allowed to fly several. 20-kilogram drone over the excursions because we distract them, and we also are a significant danger for them. So it's really hard to do any scanning on the site while it's open all the time. I think this answering this question, I will finish with the story where and I'm really grateful to the museum that for this trust, because on the January the 1st this year, we were there, just two of us, empty museum, and this was really different feeling to be there, absolutely in an empty site. Yes, this was really somehow I wasn't expecting this, but it sticks in my mind being there alone. But it allowed us, of course, technically to push the work forward because it was great weather and we had the full day on. So we didn't go to any New Year's party. We just woke up in the morning and drove to Oświęcim and done next part of the scanning.
If I may throw in another question, because we have been collaborating on this for many months now, and I remember you sharing with us that whatever technology we apply today, by tomorrow it's already outdated. What is the future? With new engines, with more memory, you have gathered lots of data which we cannot process actually in its total mass. What is in there for us in the future?
So there are two things which I think are answer for this question. One is like new technologies are appearing every week. So whenever sometimes people are asking to send them a month upfront a presentation about some technology, I'm usually refusing because it's very possible, almost sure that it will be outdated whenever the conference or the presentation comes. But whatever is not outdated and whatever we are now, what's the mission of this project is to keep the data, keep the source data. And in a way, this is the most important. I cannot say we don't care about the technology because we really do care about the technology, but we have prepared the data for the technology that don't exist yet. And I think that's second answer for this question, where we are in a way absolutely saying that we have done it now we have processed this data with the best technology that's existing now, but we hope that this data will be processed in the next 10 years, 20 years, maybe 100 years with another technology which will do the visual, process the visual representation of this site even in a better way than it is now.
Thank you very much. I think you're touching upon a very important point, that is authenticity and the need to protect the site against all kinds of threats. We are talking about extreme weather conditions. We're talking about international conflicts. There is a war happening next door in the east of Poland with Ukraine being invaded by Russia. There is other sorts of threats. So I think also that gathering this data and establishing a set of data that will allow us to protect what we have nowadays is very, very important. Kristen, now I'd like to turn to you. Speaking about threats, nowadays lots of discussions are about AI, artificial intelligence being an actual threat to accuracy, to historical truth. What is your take on this in this context?
Thank you, Wojciech. What you're referring to there is what I call truth decay. But just to be clear, deepfakes, AI doesn't make deepfakes. Okay, people make deepfakes or fake information using technology. Technology and AI has enabled this tool to be democratized. Technology, however, is a critical tool also for us in terms of protecting the truth, to being able to capture a moment in time and preserve it for posterity. Journalism has been doing this with photography and video for decades. And what we're effectively doing now is keeping history alive through that record of truth. What we're doing here is we're keeping it alive for the future generations in terms of cinematography, documentaries, and storytelling. So I don't think that AI as a tool as such can be put out there for all of the terrible things that happen. It can also be a tool to protect against this truth decay. And that's exactly what this project is about. What for me this project does is that it also unifies the physical site with the digital. And it unifies the past and the present that we have, the present that you've captured with Robert. And it enables us to project that forward then and open that up to the story makers, the filmmakers, the storytellers, the documentary makers for the future. So whereas that hasn't been available now, that is available, but also with this project, what we're baking into this as such is the integrity that is needed for that future storytelling. So this is not just about the creation of a digital virtual twin, this virtual film location. It's also about the authenticity thread that we're keeping between the physical and the digital for the future.
Thank you very much. Authenticity is, of course, a central word when you talk about Auschwitz-Birkenau. Paweł, I would like to go back to you, remaining with the physical side for a second. Would you mind explaining a little bit the significance of authenticity, and then maybe say a sentence or two about the digital component of protecting what we have at hand right now?
The site, first of all, is immense and huge, and we have close to 200 hectares of territory. We have buildings. And we have ruins. We have, again, hundreds of ruined buildings, especially at the Birkenau site, which I presume will be a much bigger challenge to the project than the Auschwitz one, which is not complete, but most of the buildings, as you can see in the screen, are standing. And there are 3,600 fence posts, and there are ruins of the gas chambers, and there are multiple different things that survived and still can tell the story of the site for people who are there. We can take words of survivors, we can come to the site, and by reading those words we can see exactly what happened where, and we can be followed by these. And I think the authenticity here is something that needs to be understood in a dual form, because we have the authenticity of the site. And this project tries to visually recreate or save the digital version of the site that will allow filmmakers to look at the other authenticity. And I think this is something very important, the authenticity of the human experience within this actual site. And I believe this is something that we have in common with the filmmakers. We as the storytellers, as the curators of the museum, who need to walk with people through this space and explain them what happened where, give them some kind of a time frame, but also give them the stories of people who were murdered, people who survived, what were the human interaction. We, of course, need to talk about the victims. We talk about the perpetrators, which is a very challenging topic. And we try to use this story to make some lasting effect on their lives, so that the visit wouldn't be an end, so that the visit would be a start of reflection of what this memory means to me. And especially the authenticity of the site is preserved and you were so kind, Wojciech, not to introduce yourself, but you are the Director General of the Auschwitz-Birkenau Foundation that helps the museum to actually preserve all these authentic remains, whether we talk about a little shoe of a child victim, or we talk about ruins, or we talk about every of those 3.6 thousand fence posts. And this is the authenticity you help us to preserve. But with the authenticities of the stories, we still have survivors with us. But there will be the time, unfortunately, this is something that we are all aware of. There will be the time where we'll only have the stories that are saved in testimonies, video testimonies, audio testimonies written down. Survivors will not be able to add anything more. And therefore, I think the protection of the second authenticity, the authenticity of the stories of people who were in Auschwitz, is something that we should share. We, the site and the curators and the protectors of the physical Auschwitz Memorial, and people who try to look at this to find some meaning, because I believe both the filmmakers and us want to have this lasting reflection moment. When you leave the memorial, you are left with your thoughts. When you leave a cinema hall, when the film finishes, no filmmaker wants to, okay, so we go home and we don't think about it. It should be a lasting. So I think we have to try and combine, and we want to not only take this step to allow the filmmakers together to use the virtual location. If we will see that they want to tell the story, we want to help them to look at the accuracy of the stories, to help with our research, with our knowledge, with the hundreds of testimonies that we have in our archives, with the documents that we have. And this is what the filmmakers were doing. They couldn't film at the site, but they tried to measure, they tried to come to the archives, and there will be two films, of course, that the Cannes audience knows very well. One is The Zone of Interest, which is a more recent look at the story of the perpetrators, but the second will be The Son of Saul. And I can look at every scene of the Son of Saul, and I know which testimony, which words, which story is represented there. And the Son of Saul, because of the budget, couldn't recreate the visual aspect of the camp, but with a very important artistic measure they did it. So I think there are differences, of course, with the film idea of showing something that is dramatic, and our sometimes very difficult role of people who may be able to say that this is not right, this is not correct, this is factually different. But I think with the filmmakers that understand this responsibility of this authenticity, we can use it to create lasting effect and reflection, and this moral responsibility we should have when we look at this memory to millions and millions of people who are, the recipients of this story, who either come to the memorial but also see those stories in the screen.
Thank you. Kristen, maybe you would like to go a little bit deeper also on the issue of authentication. It has been an issue to work with digital content that is online. Of course, we know nowadays that hundreds, if not millions, of pictures and videos about Auschwitz, from Auschwitz, are posted online, and basically anyone with access or with more skills than myself, certainly, with the technology available, could create something like that. I'm also looking at Maciej and very curious about your thoughts. But maybe, Kristen, you could start with speaking a little bit about this tension between authentication, the authentic site, and digitally recreating a site, and what it will mean in the future. Are we talking still about something that is really there? Can it be altered? What are the risks?
Definitely. So there's, as you say, there's a lot of material out there, and this can effectively be scraped and used today relatively easily to create something. And there have also been multiple other 3D scanning projects that have been done around the globe. But for me, what really differentiates this project and this virtual film location is the fact that it is, well, to start off with, I think there's two things. It's an absolute authentic capture of the site as it stands today, but that also the IP of this, everything that Maciej and Robert have scanned and collected, and all the work that has been done, is owned by the memorial. Okay, so we have not just the authentic capture of, but that this exact replica, the memorial continues their role, their important role as guardians of the truth, everything that Paweł was just talking about, and they hold that digital replica as such. So that is our measure. You know, in Paris we have a meter measure that everything is held against, okay? And the memorial will hold that digital reference. So that will be our authenticity zero as such. And that is not always the case. In many other cases, scanning is done, digital replicas are created, and it's not measured against that measure that you will have there. So for me, it enables the memorial, but also the filmmakers to have that certification of authenticity in here. And there's a lot of media out there today, and as consumers, we are becoming more and more aware of the importance of authenticity when we're viewing and looking at content. So as cinema people who go to the movies, or as movie makers, that now stands for something. But for me, this project is also, I think, a cornerstone project in what is it that we need to do, what is the techniques, the tools, and the practices that physical sites and sites of enormous historic importance to us do, and how they work with the creative industries, be they news media, be they film, and what are the tools, the standards, the processes, and the approaches that they put into place. So this project, for me, sets a new global digital IP standard when it comes to how do we create the bond and that authenticity value chain between history, physical location, physical assets, as you were saying, Paweł, all of the things that we have that we can point to and say, this actually happened, and then whatever the future storytellers will make using this virtual film location.
Thank you. Maciej.
If we still have a little bit more time, maybe we should show how does it look in the studio. So we just play, we've done for now like small tests in a virtual studio on the ATM virtual stage in Warsaw. So these are really small tests. So can we play the demo file, please? I don't know if you hear me. Yes.
I think it's coming.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we will not play sound in a few days. We will just publish this on the website, on the film.auschwitz.org file. We just tested one of the versions of the virtual film locations, which was like, in a way, easiest to test for us, to just show you how authentic is not a good word, how realistic it can look. So we, because of the very limited time and limited means for this test, we didn't have any art construction. So we had just studio, LED screen, virtual film location, the render system, the tracking system, and the camera, and very minimal light. So the whole crew was like 6 people, including both of us with Wojciech.
Myself not being talented, just to emphasize.
But just wanted to show you this, how we can, in this virtual film location, realistically, with a very limited means, show going through a gate without going through a gate. Of course, it can be done. This is just a test. So these tests are done to do the right shooting correct. So it's just a beginning, but we're just also showing it how it looks in Unreal Engine, because this is it's important in a game engine. This was also all these technologies were in each case a big task, because in most of the cases people are not used to this kind of level of density in data. Are not many softwares are not prepared for this amount of data. So we were in many cases touching the ceiling in at least couple of softwares, where the software owners were telling us, okay, you can load one object, you can load a couple of objects, but you cannot load the whole site. and this is because all this software is prepared for one building, for a couple of buildings, but with a millimeter accuracy in the scanning. And I think Robert is like, we have in geolocalization, we have around 2 centimeters of localizing it on Earth, something like this, yes, Robert? You don't know, yes? Okay. So with this kind of accuracy, we wanted to load everything in one project to have like an authentic site. And this was in many of the visualization software, it wasn't possible. But we are in touch with the software owners. They're working towards expanding the possibilities, and we are on the edge of the technology to make it even more realistic, to make it to have the data in one set, to not divide it into pieces. So we're working towards this. Which is also like a very interesting visual experiment. But what I really would like to accent here and express that we are not creating a toy. We are creating something what has a mission, what has a purpose. So we are not pushing these boundaries to push the boundaries. We're pushing these boundaries because it's necessary, because of all the reasons that Paweł expressed and Mr. Ryszard expressed. This is why we're doing it. And it's absolutely different way of technological development if this mission is behind us and if this is the wind in our sails.
Thank you very much, Maciej. So just to sum up, what we have at hand is the recreated main camp Auschwitz I. And if you could pick up that mic for a second and also just sum up where we are right now technologically and what is ahead of us, what we are trying to achieve. And also for the sake of full transparency, we are here to inform you that this technology is available. You can, of course, approach us. You can use the website, approach us either through the website or directly after this panel, of course, or in the coming days. We are also here to raise funds because we need funding for the creation of Birkenau and for the interiors of the whole camp. So Auschwitz I is already now available. Movie productions which are interested are of course more than welcome to approach us, but explain in detail what is possible. So this is a 360-degree camera view, right? So wherever we are in Auschwitz, we can shoot a movie, we can start shooting scenes. So give us the details.
It's more than 360 because it's a spatial data. It's a 3D. 360 is something where we can turn around our head so we can look around. If it's spatial data, we can move in this space. And the data that we've gathered is, let's say, the foundation of this data is something what is, we can call it what is surveyor's work, just a little bit dense, more dense in data, is the laser scanning. Mm-hmm. What we've done, because we have people who have such a passion and perfectionism like Robert, so instead of doing around planned 500 stations, we have now 1,300 in the same territory. So we are just much more dense in data. This is the scaffolding for everything. Then we have the photogrammetry data, which is in a way, in a very simplified way, the visual layer for this, but having the scaffolding allows us to have the visual and the, let's say, measurements in a very precise way. And then an experimental level, we've done also so-called neural radiance fields, which in a very also simplified way, it's an artificial intelligence which is trained on a set of data which is guessing different camera angles which are not existing. So let's say we have a picture of this room from here, 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 and there, and the system will guess different angles based on this data. It works more or less like human brain, so even if I don't know what is behind you, I can guess because I've been trained, I've seen this hole before, and I've seen this kind of holes. So let's say these are the 3 levels, which are very systematically done. We have now Auschwitz I mostly done without the interiors. But I think the most important work, which are the workflows and the way of working in this kind of open and very densely crowded or almost overcrowded museum, this was the first learning for us. Because we were not prepared for this. We thought we were prepared, but we were not prepared.
So lots of surprises during the
lots of surprises. So yeah, Robert is laughing, but he was, this is the laughing after the many of surprises where we were really frustrated that we cannot move on with work, and we wanted, and we were just stuck and waiting. I think that the smile of Robert is because we just conquered that in many, sometimes just waiting for the right circumstances. We conquered it to wait for the possibility of shoot it when the next excursion was gone and the weather was good enough. So in a way, conquered through patience. And this is what we have. We have most of the Auschwitz I without interiors. We have the beginning of the gate in Birkenau, and we're ready with our workflows and also with the team that we built while this project to move on to the bigger, as Paweł said, to the bigger side, to the side where we really have square kilometers for scanning.
May I add one more thing, because for very obvious reasons, when we think of this tool and the stories we may tell, we talk about historical films. But please remember, with this technology, it is also, filmmakers will be able to use the museum as a space, because, for example, if you want to film about a visit in the museum by any, I can think of, there's a film about Pablo Picasso, and Pablo Picasso did visit the Auschwitz Memorial, and you cannot film his visit at the authentic site. You will also be able to do that with this tool. So the museum will be able to play a museum, which is also not possible. So there's a second layer of stories that we'll be able to show to the world that filmmakers are not able to say, because they cannot enter into the memorial space.
A very creative aspect indeed. I can see that we have only a couple of minutes left, and I would also like, again, to invite Agnieszka Holland to share with us her experience. Agnieszka, what are your thoughts for the future? When you look at what Maciej has been doing, and you yourself have lots of experience, when you think in a couple of years ahead, what will be the next stages, and will there be more challenges or more chances for film production?
But we'll be having a lot of challenges, that is sure. Also concerning the technology and technological revolution and the moral aspect of that, and uncertainty concerning the use and development of artificial intelligence. But from the pure creative point of view, I think that we'll be having the incredible tools. And also I like the idea that I can shoot any place, anything, without practically moving from the stage. It is certainly very good for the travels. It means spending of the fuel and the ecology. So yeah, I'm hopeful, seeing all the possible dangers and challenges. I still think that we can overcome it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Horowitz. How about your moral and ethical considerations when you think about the future?
I'm extremely fascinating about the whole issue, listening to all the details right now that I was not totally aware of. I'm really a child of Birkenau that's in the works, as we say, right? And as a very small child, barely 5, I was there. It's very hard for me looking at what I look at right now to recall any memories, whatever I have been able to absorb and retain throughout my life. And I think it's a potentially fascinating tool, and I wish I were a filmmaker. I would like to be able to take advantage of it myself, but maybe in another life. Just congratulations and go on, and let's see it actually happen, and let's see the first movie done with that technology. I don't know what else I can add to it. I know that I'm sitting here as the only eyewitness to add some, I guess, weight to the project, and I appreciate it. And there's no rejection on my part whatsoever. As I said before, a film world is something that's a part of a fantasy. Anyway, so why not use any virtual tools that we can put our hands on and to be able to invert it into a fascinating story, because that's what really amounts to it, something that will be retained for future generations to experience. So good luck. And that's it.
Thank you very much. You can
Thank you
imagine
very
how
much.
important it is for us to have this blessing.
Thank you.
It is worth saying very clearly that in our generation's work, the blessing from survivors is probably the most important guideline in whatever we do. And Paweł was very correct in saying that I didn't introduce myself, and now is probably the worst time, but I still think I should introduce myself. My name is Wojtek Soczywica, and I'm CEO of the Auschwitz-Birkenau Foundation. In our work, and we are in charge of financing the actual preservation process on site, it has always been most important to listen to the guidance of survivors, like Mr. Horowitz, and to have their acceptance. And I can only tell from working closely with Paweł, with Maciej, with Kristen, and with many others on the team, that this has been a central issue and most critical issue, that we know that we're doing the right thing. We, of course, never know what's going to be right and wrong in the future, but we know that by today's standards and by the standards of the Auschwitz-Birkenau State Museum and Memorial, which is there to protect historical truth, historical accuracy, it is absolutely necessary for us to follow their guidelines and not to overstep and not to misuse trust. And I think in this sense, this session has been also an important contribution to make everyone aware and discuss this openly and transparently, that we are not ready to create something that is comes out of our fantasy, but that we're there to make sure that everything that comes on screen is based in historical truth and is also vetted by historians. And I see that we have 1 minute and 35 seconds. I think it would be also necessary, Paweł, if I may, to ask you, because looking at the technology is one thing, but maybe in a couple of sentences, would you explain that, should we accept some screenplays, what's the process in looking at them? This is an important process. I'm sorry for throwing this in last minute, but in a couple of sentences.
It's impossible to answer this in 1 minute, but we have to, first we need to see if there is if the artist doesn't want to use the site as the stage, because this is something I think we are afraid. Auschwitz is so powerful that you have to be humble that if you want to tell the story. And if we exclude this, probably we will be able to find a language in which the human story of people who incredibly suffered at Auschwitz, who were murdered there, will be told. And then we'll have to step by step work together to find the right words. The technology is there, and then the words will have to be found to meet the standards of the technology. And here is where the memorial is able to really give a hand to the authors, that out of many different reasons, do not have the knowledge about the history of Auschwitz that we have.
Thank you very much. I would like to thank our panelists. Please give them a warm round of applause. Kristen Davis, Agnieszka Holland, Ryszard Horowitz, Paweł Sawicki, and Maciej Rzemojcin. Thank you for your time. Should you be interested, please approach us. Please check the webpage. We are there to provide further explanation. Thank you very much.